Hello! Today I thought I'd take a look at Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay India Inks Set 1 and 2. Now, originally I was going to have them all neatly packaged in their original packaging, which looks like this. But I can only find one box. I cannot find the other one anywhere. I don't know if I've thrown it out. I thought I kept it, but nah. I've hunted all through my studio, so I'm just not even going to worry about that. But I'll just quickly show you how they were. Basically, they come like that. And you can even stand them up. So the packaging's pretty good, but I find it's really, really big and cumbersome, so I pulled all of my bottles out of the package and I've put them in these containers. I have my warm colours and my cool colours. But what I'm going to do for this is rearrange them so that we can look at the colours that came in set 1 and the colours that came in set 2. I'm going to swatch them all out in my sketchbook and then I'm going to make some art with them. Yay, let's get into it. Okay, I've sorted them into set 1 and set 2, and I've drawn up a big old swatch chart here with the two different sets. I also have 3 Iridescent Calligraphy Inks that are also by Dr. P.H. Martin's. Now you can buy these in large sets as well, but they are pretty expensive. I picked these up in a local store. They only had a handful of them and I thought I'd grab them. One day I might like to expand and get the larger sets, but those are on my wish list and I will get those further down the track. But I have had these inks now for about 3 years, I think. And I just thought I'd briefly talk about them in case you're unfamiliar with these inks by Dr. P.H. Martin's. Now, these are Bombay India Inks, so they are made with pigments in them, and that means that they will wet with water, so you can water them down and things, dilute them out with water. But once they're dry, they are not going to budge ever, not for anything, so you can paint over them. They're really great for that. They are very permanent, they're very saturated for the most part, and I really, really like them a lot. I've used quite a lot of them actually. For example, not the golden yellow. Let's see, this one, you could see I've used quite a lot of the yellow ink, and the black one I think I'm nearly running out of, so I have used them off and on over the years. They are highly light fast. Now, I've not done tests myself, but I did see someone else's tests on the internet somewhere. If I can find it, I will link it in the description below because they are most excellent. They put them out in the light for, I think, 6 months or something, and they didn't change at all. Even things like the magenta, I think, are really light fast. So if you're looking for a quality product that you can make art with to sell, these are highly recommended for that. Also, just really quickly, I do want to mention that some of the pigments, for example, the yellow ochre and the terracotta and a lot of the earth ones, they do get a lot of sediment in the bottom and you do kind of need to shake them up before you use them. It's a bit of a pain. Usually with earth colours like this, they are far heavier in their pigments or they're very, very fine, and so they will drop to the bottom and separate out of the mixture. I have shaken these up, but you can still see this pigment in them, so I will have to shake them a bit more. And with the Iridescent inks, you could see just how much those split, and that's because they use mica, I'm presuming, and yes, they are a pain in the butt. They don't really shake very well, so I end up using a toothpick to stir them, and you have to do that every time you use them. So that is their biggest downfall, but they are really, really pretty, and I thought I'd add some bonus ones just so we can see them on the side there. Also, because I'd miscalculated this, I thought it went that far and then realised I had 7 columns instead of 6, so I just put those there, and we've got a little bit of space to add the calligraphy inks. Hooray! So let's get into it and see what the colours look like. Starting out with set 1, I've alternated the colours just so that they could dry a bit between and not all bleed together, as I'm really good at doing. I have not been able to find anywhere a list of the pigment numbers that they use in their products. I looked on Dr. P.H. Martin's website and they only have charts of the colours, not the actual pigment details, so sorry about that. We'll just have to look at the colours and admire how pretty they are. But according to them, they're all light fast. As you can see in this set, they are very, very transparent colours. In set 2 there are many more opaque ones. In fact, in set 1 The only opaque one is the white, which I will show in a moment. The brown maybe a little bit, but this one is more transparent than set 2, and I managed to make the black bleed into it. The white Bombay ink is reasonably opaque and not too bad. Now going into the second set, the golden yellow, as you can see, is a bit warmer than the yellow, which I would say is like a lemon. And these colours are very much more secondary, tertiary kind of colours. Jackson's art had it labelled as sunset/earth colours. That Van Dyke brown, I had to shake it up because the pigment had settled to the bottom, and you can see there's so many bubbles in it, it's very annoying. The aqua and the turquoise, which we will see later, are very, very transparent, as is the orange and the tangerine. The yellow ochre is quite opaque. The cherry red's not bad. The red violet has got a funny smell to it. And the terracotta did not want to mix with the binder. It's like a really gloopy consistency and is the grossest ink in the collection as far as I'm concerned. The sepia was also really, really gluggy. I don't know if that's just my own personal bottle of it. Really love the turquoise. It's probably my favourite out of it. The turquoise and the cherry red above it both look lovely. And now I'm doing the calligraphy inks. They had all settled to the bottom, so there was a lot of stirring and shaking to get the pigment to be released back into the liquid. I don't know what that liquid is, by the way. It is whatever they use to make India ink. Here's the copper plate gold, and then last of all is the copper, which is my favourite of the three. Alright, let's take a look at them now that they're mostly dry. A couple of them are still wet, you can see there, the turquoise. They're taking forever and I am far too impatient to wait, so I'm just going to talk about them now. I think they're a nice set. I think this set is definitely the better one. It's a much better array of colours, but there are certain ones in here which I think go with these ones really well. The standouts for me are that tangerine. I really like the crimson. The colour of the red violet is good, but this one stinks for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, it's really bad. The yellow ochre's not bad. The golden yellow's quite nice. These two are quite similar, but this one, as you can tell, is much cooler. And I do like the aqua and the turquoise. The sepia is a good colour, except for the fact that mine has gone really gluggy. These two are my least favourite. They're not very pigmented by comparison to the rest, or colour saturated, if you will. I mean, they've got plenty of pigment in them, but yeah, they're just not very saturated, and they don't sit well in the binder. The orange is quite pretty as well. I like the ones that are nice and transparent. The ones that aren't just, yeah, are not my favourites. But there we go, we've got two sets, and I definitely use this set much more. So if you were to choose one set, I would highly recommend going for set 1. And then if you wanted to supplement, then maybe go with set 2 just to pick up the turquoises and aquas and oranges and things. Because the set here does not have an orange in it. The bright red is closest, but that is definitely far more vermilion. I really wish maybe they'd swapped the tangerine with the bright red. I think then that would be an awesome set. The iridescent ones, let's have a look and see if I can get them to sparkle a bit. I love the copper. I think the copper is my favourite, but the copper plate gold is also pretty. The nickel's like a lovely champagne colour, so it's silvery but a very warm silver, if you want to call it that. Somewhere in between silver and gold. But yeah, they're quite pretty. You can see that on the copper especially, how much sheen there is. And look at that. I always have ones that bleed into each other. So annoying. It wouldn't be a Becky swatch chart without some mess in it. Oh, and I should mention that the white's not too bad. You could probably layer more white on that to make it more opaque, but if you really want an opaque white, I would highly recommend Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. This one is much more opaque than the white Bombay ink. Alright, I'm going to do a painting with these. The painting I have today is probably not going to use all of the colours, but I may use more in the background, I'm not too sure yet, so I will get into that now. I saw a picture of a green tree frog recently and I really wanted to draw this, so I decided that's what I was going to do today. So there's a lot of grass green and yellow used in this painting. I've started off with a light base and then I like to work my way up with the inks and layer them. Because they are permanent, you can layer them on top of each other really well, and they do blend quite well when they're wet. The frog was sitting on one of those really striated leaves, and I'm kind of regretting keeping that. I may have had an easier time if I'd just done a nice blurry background, but of course I had to do the leaf and it's really linear and I made a bit of a mess of it, but never mind. I was trying to also get a bit of difference in value, so one side of the leaf line is darker than the other. Kind of hit and miss as to how successful that was, but you kind of get the point, and I think you can see a fairly decent pattern. So yeah, I'll let this run and you can see how these inks layer on each other. For the most part, as I've said, they are wonderfully transparent and they are very, very bright and vibrant. I really love using them. You would probably need to mix some of them if you want to make more neutral colours or use more of the earth colours, but I just love bright colours, so for me this is a perfect palette. Biggest challenge I face with this is the background here. I just dripped on different teals and blues, and as you can see up the top, something has gone wrong with the paper and the ink has soaked in and left that yucky line. The paper, I am wondering now if it's starting to get old and has begun to just break down. I don't know, but yeah, unfortunately I'm stuck with that. And I'm going over everything again with another layer. I let the whole picture dry for quite a while, although the inks do dry a lot faster than watercolours, I find. And then you can just go over the top, and as you can see, they get more and more vibrant the more you layer them. I was having a bit of a challenge trying to get some depth into this painting and some value. The shadow there, I'd used just the green on its own, and it's a bit too bright, if you know what I mean. Like, it doesn't really separate the frog from the leaf. So that was my biggest challenge in this painting, was getting enough darkness into it so that you can distinguish between the shadows and the highlights. And that's, I don't think, anything to do with the ink. That's just my own personal struggles that I was going through. As you can see, I did start to build it up, and eventually I went in with some brown over it to neutralize that darker green for the shadow. And I also spent some time adding in a bit more detail on the frog itself because it was looking very flat and one-dimensional, and I was just trying to add a bit of highlight and shadow to make it look more interesting. So yeah, the shadow was probably the most difficult part of this whole painting, and it took me quite a few layers to get it how I wanted. And now I'm using the white Bombay ink to go over the whole frog and give it lots of little highlights and make it look like it's shiny and juicy from the water. So I think this lifted it quite a lot, and I felt a lot better over just doing this all over the painting, really, just adding a few highlights because I wasn't super keen on the background either. And then I just used a little bit of black fine liner just to add some really dark areas and just to outline some of the frog because he really needed something to push him from the background. And as usual, I have a lovely mess to clean up after I've finished all of this video. What fun. But here's the finished painting with the ink and the ink swatches on this side. Yeah, I think this book is starting to atrophy around the edges, which is really annoying because look at that line, it's so annoying. I don't know if it's managed to soak in through the side or if it's just that the paper, sometimes when watercolour paper ages, the sizing goes funny, so and you can see, yes, I've made a lovely mess on that side, so what fun, this book is just getting messier and messier. Never mind, it's a sketchbook, that's what they're there for. So the colours ended up being really bright, and of course I've used them pretty much straight. I haven't mixed them too much to make neutrals aside from in the shadows a bit. It was quite a hard painting in the end, especially these lines on the leaf, they killed me. But anyway, I'm quite happy with it. Maybe I could do more, but I just don't want to wreck it by overworking it, so I'm leaving it for now. I may add more later, being that it's in a sketchbook. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that it's helped you see how some of the inks worked. I maybe could have picked a picture that had all of the colours, but I just really wanted to do this frog, so that's what happened. Thank you so much for watching today. Please like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all again really soon. I'll swatch you later. Bye!